At Decospan, we are rooted in nature. Welcome to a new episode in our podcast series, where today we will zoom in on an important yet delicate topic in the industry: sustainability. Where does sustainability start and stop? How is it to be a wood manufacturing company in times of challenging regulations? How to balance sustainability with business performance?
Rooted in connection. Rooted in design. Rooted in nature. Rooted in craftsmanship. Rooted in innovation. Join us and explore the spirit of wood. Welcome to Rooted In, a Decospan podcast.
Plenty of questions, but luckily we have two experts at our table who are happy to answer. Welcome to the show, Mr. Crespo and Mr. Vanhuyse. I am Wouter Polfliet, board administrator at Decospan and your host for today. So, Piet and Oscar, I'm so happy that you made it to the show. We are here in our fancy podcast booth at our Interzoom exposition, so really good to have you here.
Thank you, Wouter.
I'm very impatient about this one. The topic for today is all about sustainability, and I think that's really a hot topic in the industry. So before we dive in, maybe a short introduction on yourself. Oscar, you are the ESG officer at Garnica. What exactly does that mean?
Yeah, so the ESG officer is sort of a governance role, let's say, and it focuses on the whole strategy around sustainability for the company. This is I also in charge of strategy at Garnica itself, but day to day, ESG is becoming more and more important for the whole corporate strategy of our company, and I will say in our business overall.
All right, great. And Piet, you are the business unit director of veneer products for Decospan. And I think Interzoom for your organization is really a very important momentum, right?
It's extremely important, and I'm very excited to be here at Interzoom. Not only because when you see a booth, it's a bit strategy coming to life. You see product launches, which you have been brainstorming about years ago. You see new strategies being implemented also visually, so it makes it tangible. But it's also an opportunity to connect with our partners throughout the industry. I think we will discuss a lot about partnerships as well, and also shape the industry. And so for that, I think Interzoom is a great show, and it's a great moment also to reflect.
All right, great. I hear you are both excited and looking forward to the show, and also I hope to this podcast episode. Welcome also to our listeners to joining the episode for today. We'll explore on how one of the world's oldest building materials is being reimagined for a greener future in this episode. Because as climate change and resource scarcity reshape global priorities, the wood industry stands for some kind of a crossroads moment, balancing the demand for renewable materials on one hand side, and on the other hand side, the need to protect our forests and make sure that our ecosystems are also there in the future. Piet, sustainability, what exactly do you understand under that, let's say, umbrella name?
It's indeed an umbrella name, and a lot of topics can go under it. But if I put it simply in my mind, it's basically about respect. It's about respect for nature, for our people, for that beautiful raw material that we work with. And it's also always starts from there. It's a core value of Decospan, respect next to sustainability, but for me it's actually one. And how do we bring that to life? It's basically, we say we want to create a world full of favorite places, but it's something we truly believe we also need to nurture those places for generations to come. And that is about responsible forest management at the start, but throughout the chain, think about it, and not only about the material, but also the people and the partners that we work with.
Seems like you have a very clear vision and a very clear idea of the concept how sustainability should work at Decospan. And then at Garnica, which is known for its plywood, I assume this is more or less the same, or do you see any differences?
I will say I will completely agree with Piet, especially on the part of future generations. I am a forester by training. Actually, well, my great grandfather also was a forester engineer, so this has been in the family for nearly 2 centuries, we can say.
It's really in the veins, let's say.
Yeah, it is, and for a forester and for sustainable forestry, the main principle is guaranteeing regeneration. So we do not harvest trees because of producing wood products. We do harvest trees to guarantee that there is a regeneration into the future, right? So this is about future. This is about guaranteeing sustainable production, either of timber or other forest products, or even recreation into the future. But it's also about a greater scope of sustainability. It's also about people. It's about communities. It's about the people working in our mills. It's about, developing rural environments and communities. So it's a whole concept of sustainability that touches the resource, but also the people involved in it.
Yeah, okay. What I heard in your answer is that regeneration is really a fundamental part of it, and that triggers me. How do you work with regeneration at Garnica?
Yeah, I mean, we mostly work with local sources. As you know, we work with poplar. Poplar we source in Spain and France. Those are very small landowners that grow their crop, let's say, these poplars for 10, 15, 20 years. Okay. And they plant those and the ultimate goal is to regenerate, to harvest those and then plant them again. And they will obtain a financial return. But while that happens, they are also providing environmental services as values, and they are also protecting our rivers, for example, that many people don't know that, but poplar river buffers in Spain or France protect our water bodies from pollution from agriculture, which is the main threat to our water systems within continental Europe, because they are heavily polluted because of our agriculture. So we guarantee regeneration at the same time. We produce a resource, and at the same time we produce a lot of environmental benefits with our operations.
That's a great insight. For Decospan, I assume things are slightly different because you work a lot with decorative veneer species. So assuming that taking care of the forest and the diversity is quite important, there is also some regulation involved in that. How do you deal with it?
Well, I think first on the regulation side, which is always a hot topic when it comes to sustainability, I'm actually cheering for that because it all starts with sustainable forestry. Because often people see it as a trade-off. Can we still grow the business and protect nature? For me, the wood industry as a whole, it's one of the most sustainable building materials. So actually growing the wood industry is positive and has a positive effect on nature. So that's at least a statement and sometimes a misconception which should go out there. Then if we look at Decospan, then specifically speaking about wood, was a bit triggered by the story of your grandfather. My grandfather was a butcher, and you would say, what does this have to do with forestry? But there also you need to utilize the full animal to be profitable as a butcher. But for the forest and also for the tree, it's also that butcher principle, utilizing the full breadth of the resource. And that you can see, for example, in our new Nux collection, where we also use the sapwood. It's a perfect example of that, of utilizing that full breadth of the resource. And then it goes beyond that, also in cascading throughout the life cycles. There it's also making sure that the first cascade, the second cascade, that you have the full carbon capture and storage story there, recyclability, renewability, that is planned effectively. And then you look at the full value chain, and then you take a step back from just purely being the decorative surface, but it's really a full story where the full industry is behind. So I'm happy we do this together with Garnica as well, that full industry is behind, and that actually our industry also is leading on that.
Great. You mentioned Garnica. I assume you have some add-ons on that vision.
Yes, actually, as you were talking, that very same sentence you said from your grandfather on the butcher shop, our former president, Pedro Garnica, who unfortunately passed away last year, he used to say that very same sentence about poplar, because we also need to sell all the qualities, and when you manufacture plywood and all this, so it just tickled that in my mind, right? Well, we all miss Pedro, and also your product. I mean, veneer is probably the most efficient use of a natural material, because you can have this natural touch, this natural feeling, but at the same time, the amount of resource that you consume on species which are scarce, right? I cannot think of anything that's more efficient than having a 0.5, 0.6 millimeters veneer, that you have that aspect that then you use a different material like poplar, plywood on the platform or other substrates, right? Which can be even recycled. So I think it's,
so what you say is that it has a certain, of course, decorative value, but it has so much more to bring to the market, and for that, it should be the preferred building material. That's what I hear you saying.
Yeah, prefer building, decorative, because I mean, I don't know about you guys, but like I feel like the society, it's moving luckily towards more of the use of and towards natural materials. Like we don't want to be locked in buildings that are made out of plastic, right? It's like wood is a natural material. It is warm. You feel good when you're surrounded by wood. Like,
okay.
I think that's the way of moving forward.
I think it's a nice bridge. You feel good about wood. It's what we say now on this exhibition is also the spirit of wood. And for me, that's also where the initial respect comes a bit from. Like wood demands it from you. You have that intangible and tangible feeling. That spirit with wood that you feel. It's the warmth, it's the touch, it's the texture, but it's also that emotion that it brings. And that is really for me why we have to treat it with respect, and why you also naturally treat it with respect. And I think there all the regulation, legislation, all the efforts are not just for the sake of doing it, but really core to the industry.
Yeah, regulations often make things challenging, let's say, but they should be there for the good. Do you experience that is the situation where we're in, or do you feel we're still in some kind of struggling phase like at the moment?
I think because I mean this is an important topic. We are both of our companies are European companies. Right? We both have our operations within the EU, right? And with the EU regulation, what has happened over the past years, I call it the over-regulatory tsunami. Okay, so the amount of over-regulation that has come, it is crazy because it ultimately, it impedes the goal of these regulations. Like and companies we cannot even track, and authorities cannot enforce. So then there is really the ultimate goal of the regulation is never achieved. And one important piece that we may want to discuss, for example, is EUDR, right? So EUDR, it is reaching a level of complexity which may impede the actual, the actual goal of the regulation, which is ending deforestation, which we can all agree upon. It's like we live on sustainable forest management. Without sustainable forest management, we have no future, we have no resource. So
sure.
Of course, all our companies are completely agree with the ultimate goal of EUDR as a regulation, right?
Okay, so a big fan, but let's say there should be some phases in that whole roadmap towards the goal.
Yeah, we need to work together with the Commission on how this is gonna be applied. Who should really be the focus of the regulation, right? It's like, should we be targeting really the commodities or the countries that are really driving the deforestation? And that's probably where the focus will be. We should really have the focus on the sinners, let's say, because that is really what is driving deforestation.
Okay.
Maybe to complement that, because I think it's also important. Now we discuss a lot about overregulation, and there's a truth in that. But the intent of EUDR, what you also explained, is for me an important one. I am actually proud as Europe that we put a stick in the ground and that we say we want to fight it, and that's the end goal that we as an industry together with the European Commission can jointly stand behind and firmly stand behind. Because to make it long-term sustainable, it's not on a European scale, but it will be needed on a global scale. So the intent of EUDR and also the need for EUDR for me is definitely there. And I'm actually maybe weird to say these days, but proud that as Europe we do that, and we try to make it effective.
Exactly. One of the tangibles of that whole discussion is also the obliged reporting, and Decospan has a sustainability report since a couple of years already, so it's not quite new to us. We're doing it, but in there you also talk about the future vision of sustainability. Can you maybe clarify that to the listeners?
Yeah, definitely. So indeed, the sustainability report, we published last year the first one, and I saw a draft yesterday of our next one. We published it before it was a regulation, just because it's an important aspect, and we also want to take a leading role in the industry. Then the vision on sustainability. We talked at the beginning of creating a world full of favorite places, and we group it also on that front. So first is sustainable forest management, sustainable forests. I think we discussed it enough. It's important. We also have our own pure wood charter to help there, to make sure that we also do our own due diligence when certifications are not available there, and to go beyond. So that is one. And the second one, which is another natural resource, and I mean it in the best way possible, is also the people aspect. Because our industry stands or falls not only with wood, but also with the people in it. And so there, the healthy workplace is for us a second pillar in our sustainability story, where we really want to drive engagement and want to drive the personal development of all the individuals, not only within Decospan, but also beyond. And then the last favorite place is what we call beautiful interiors. And that is where product development, technology comes into play. How we also with our brands, with our collections, can shape the sustainability story. To throw another example, it's the third life, for example, in our Quercus vintage range, where we use actually oak beams to produce decorative surfaces. It's just an example of how you can lead the way, where technology and partnerships, I would say, are two key drivers, and that's why also we're here together today. So those three places, developing that, not in the short term, because as a family business, we have the luxury to think on the longer term perspective, and I think it's required in our industry to think on the longer term perspective. So nurturing those places is basically our vision beyond for the future.
Wow, that's a very comprehensive vision that you have, and the way you bring it to then, for example, this booth and this product is really proof that you are capable of making a more theoretical approach very tangible. So that's excellently done. And at Garnica, you are also a very sustainable company in your DNA, and also you as a person, as you highlighted. What are the future ambitions for Garnica when it comes to sustainability?
Yeah, so we also have our ESG roadmap for the future that we developed back a few years, actually. And our strategy is also based on three pillars, just like yours, actually. That's it's simple. It is our people, our communities. So it's like without people we cannot produce plywood, right? So it's the social part, right? And that's critical. Mm-hmm. Then it's the raw material. It's our resource. So it's sustainable, locally grown plantation materials that we focus on. Like poplar is the best example. We also use other species, but poplar will be the main example. And encouraging the development of these plantations, also the adaptation into climate change, which is critical when looking into the future. We through R&D, through supporting landowners, what do they need to plant, where they need to plant, also all the investigations around genetics, etc., etc. And then the third one is, same as you mentioned, it's innovation. It's like there is no change without innovation. We measured our scope 1 and 2 emissions since over 10 years, since 2014. We measure our scope 1, 2, and 3 emissions since 3 years ago. And obviously in our industry, that's really where the footprint is, right? It's in scope 3 emissions. And this is mostly because our panels, plywood or any other wood-based panels, is binded with a resin that has components that come from fossil fuels. And really that's where the emissions are for our industry. So we are doing a lot of research towards the introduction of bio-based materials in order to be able to reduce the scope 3 emissions associated with our production.
Mm-hmm. All right. We've heard a lot of interesting insights, and it was a great discussion about this sustainability topic that really brought it to our audience what it's all about, from more general concept to how you are putting things into practice. So really thank you for all these valuable insights and this interesting discussion.
You're welcome.
I believe that we can conclude that indeed the commitment of both companies towards sustainability has in fact always been there, and that you have a very clear vision about the future. So I would say keep up the good work. And I still have one more question. if people want to learn more about these initiatives that you're doing day to day, where should they go to? Where can they find this information?
Well, check our website. We have some materials there. We will have more things coming in the coming weeks or months. We are also launching a campaign, so please feel free to check at Garnica around our sustainability, our focus in nature. And stay tuned, because also UDR is coming. We have a lot of information on how we are ready to comply with UDR. So just check that out. We try to explain this to our customers, and yeah, stay tuned with Garnica.
Great. Piet?
Similar to us, I would say follow our channels, because in a couple of days, hopefully, a bit push to the team, or weeks, we will publish the new sustainability report. The one of last year can be found online.
All right, great. Of course, I also want to thank our listeners for another episode that we had today. And I hope everybody found this one quite as inspiring as I did. And please check also all our other channels and subscribe, because there are plenty of other great episodes with great content. Thank you.